Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Get ready because today we are diving right back into the incredible world of Circle of Inevitability. If you're enjoying these audiobook adventures, make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button. Grab a snack, settle in, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
Chapter 196, Elimination, Hugues Artois. Lumian never anticipated such a response. Did the competing Savoir mob and the Poison Spur mob really endorse the same candidate? If Hugues Artois succeeded, would he assist the Poison Spur mob in dealing with the Savoir mob? Or would he aid the Savoir mob in completely overthrowing the Poison Spur mob? Or would he demand peace between the two factions? The more Lumian pondered it, the more he sensed that something was amiss. If the influential figure behind both the Savoir mob and the Poison Spur mob was none other than Hugues Artois, then the two sides wouldn't have become bitter enemies to this extent. Though Lumian played his part, wasn't he acting under the blessings of the boss and Baron Brenier? Furthermore, Hugues Artois wasn't an elected member of Parliament. What authority did he have to protect both the Savoir mob and the Poison Spur mob? The only plausible explanation was the machinations of the Enlightenment Party, but it made no sense for them to incite two rival mobs to fight each other to the death. Lumian, lacking experience in this area, failed to find an answer even after considerable thought. All he could do was sigh with regret.
I can't employ the Savoir mob's men to secretly intimidate voters into not supporting Hugues Artois?
He glanced at Louis, his confusion evident as he asked,
Why was I unaware that our Savoir mob is backing Hugues Artois?
Louis immediately grew tense.
I assumed the Baron had apprised you, boss.
Wasn't that the purpose of the handover? Baron Brenier was in a foul mood after losing the Salle de Balbrise, so he couldn't be bothered to inform me about many things. In any case, I'll find out when I need to know. Lumian mumbled inwardly as he departed from Salle de Balbrise and returned to Auberge du Coq d'Oreille. He proceeded directly to the third floor and made his way to room 5, the dwelling of Anthony Reed, the information broker. Extending his hand, Lumian knocked on the wooden door. Knocks reverberated, yet no response came. He must not be present. That makes sense. How can an information broker stay holed up at home all the time? Lumian retrieved a note and fountain pen he carried with him and wrote on the note, using Anthony Reed's door as a surface.
I've received intel that Louis Lund will be seen on Avenue du Marché from Saturday to Sunday. Keep a close watch on him. As soon as you spot him, notify me without delay. You can find me either in room 207 at the motel or at Salle de Balbrise. The agreed payment will be made promptly when the time comes. CL.
After sliding the note through the crevice of room 305's door, Lumian returned to Salle de Balbrise and settled in the café, patiently awaiting feedback. As twilight descended, a gangster positioned near 126 Avenue du Marché dashed back to the dance hall, racing up to the second floor. Has Louis Lund been discovered? Lumian rose from his seat, eyeing his subordinate. The mobster appeared inexplicably anxious, as if a famished lion had set its sights on him. Without waiting for Lumian to inquire, he stammered in haste.
Boss, TH, this is bad. I saw a group of police officers heading toward the depot.
The depot? Isn't that under the boss's ownership? Ah, near the depot lies the warehouse belonging to Rat Christo. Could Franca's report have taken effect? Lumian swiftly contemplated a possibility. This left him disheartened. In his eyes, the Mirror People and any potential harm they might bring couldn't hold a candle to a single strand of Louis Lund's hair. Suppressing his emotions and residual excitement, Lumian spoke to his subordinate.
Understood. I'll handle it. Return to your original post and remain vigilant for the person depicted in the wanted poster. In half an hour, I'll send 4 others to relieve you.
Yes, boss.
The gangster heaved a sigh of relief and made his way downstairs. As Lumian watched him disappear, he gazed down at his trembling hands. They still quivered slightly. It was a result of the sudden surge of exhilaration he experienced when he thought his subordinate had brought news of Louis Lund. At times, my emotional stability wavers. Fortunately, I have another psychiatric session scheduled for this Sunday. Lumian sighed inwardly, taking a seat and savoring his coffee. In order to welcome Louis Lund in his fine estate, he had refrained from ordering alcohol outside the warehouses belonging to Rat Christo. He, along with his subordinates and the porters, had gathered together, encircled by 20 to 30 armed police officers donning black uniforms. Christo forced a fawning smile and addressed Superintendent Travis Everett, saying,
"Monsieur Superintendent, why have you suddenly surrounded the warehouses? I'm a legitimate businessman."
Everett, a man in his 30s with black framed glasses and a broad chin, regarded Christo and spoke in a deep voice.
Do not assume that we are unaware of your usual dealings. We are not dealing with you because you abide by the rules and know what is permissible. Your only choice now is to cooperate with us and aid us in unraveling this as swiftly as possible.
Christo detected a glimmer of hope in Superintendent Everett's words and nodded.
All right, no problem.
He had already distributed the batch of goods from yesterday. As long as the genuine account books were not discovered, there was no concrete evidence to accuse him. With his short black hair, Everett turned to the man standing beside him and said,
Monsieur Deputy Assistant Commissioner, you may proceed.
The man had a rugged appearance, sporting fluffy blonde hair, golden eyebrows, and a beard. He wore a slightly smaller black police uniform, but his buttons were crafted from gold. Adorning his epaulette was a silver-white seven-petal scented iris, accompanied by an off-white diamond square. This emblem indicated the rank of Deputy Assistant Commissioner. The police department in Trier had 4 ranks in ascending order: Chief Superintendent, Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, and Deputy Commissioner. Of these, there was only one Deputy Commissioner, the head of Trier's police department. Across the entire Intis Republic, the Minister of the National Police Department, a commissioner, held a higher rank. The Assistant Commissioner and Deputy Assistant Commissioner served as Trier's Police Department's Deputy Minister and Police Committee members. Their epaulettes displayed off-white diamond squares beside the 7-petaled irises. There were 4 commissioners, 3 deputy commissioners, 2 assistant commissioners, and 1 deputy assistant commissioner with no chief superintendents. In other words, this uncouth man with blonde hair and a golden beard held an equal rank to Amerk, the police committee member in charge of the entire Le Marché du Quartier du Gentleman. However, Christo was entirely unfamiliar with him. "Just call me Angoulême," the rugged deputy assistant commissioner replied succinctly. His gaze swept across Christo, Erkin, and the others, inexplicably making them feel as if they were staring at the blinding sun, forcing them to lower their heads. Angoulême averted his gaze and instructed the plain-clothes team behind him, "You may bring that object forward now." 2 team members approached the nearby 4-wheeled carriage and unveiled a wide, flat, and sizable object covered in a black velvet curtain. They positioned the object beside Angoulême. Angoulême locked eyes with Rat Christo and the others, subtly raising his chin, and uttered, "Line up in front of me, one by one." Christo sensed the kid in his pocket, trembling visibly. He surmised that Angoulême was an official beyonder, someone of considerable power. After a few moments of contemplation, he approached Angoulême fearfully, not daring to resist. Suddenly, Angoulême pulled open the black velvet curtain, revealing the complete appearance of the object beside him. It was a full-body mirror, simple and unadorned, mounted on a stand of rusted iron black. Christo's reflection appeared instantly in the mirror, capturing every detail. Christo remained unaware of anything amiss, but Erkin's expression underwent a drastic change behind him. Erkin abruptly turned to the left, attempting to escape. Almost 20 others followed suit, including laborers and porters. Bang, bang, bang! Angoulême's team had already prepared, raising their arms and squeezing the triggers. Bullets struck those fleeing, but it was as if they struck an illusion, passing through them and landing in the distance. Angoulême calmly extended his left hand and adjusted the position of the full-body mirror beside him. The mirror reflected Erkin's figure against a dark background. Erkin froze in place, maintaining his running posture. In an instant, he was drawn towards the full-body mirror, a look of horror etched on his face. As soon as the two collided, Erkin's body vanished. In the blink of an eye, he reappeared in the mirror, his face stained with blood. His expression turned sinister, consumed by hatred and resentment. He opened his mouth as if to scream, but an invisible force pulled him into the unnaturally dark backdrop of the mirror, and he vanished. Witnessing this, Christo stood dumbfounded. Forgetting to aid his brother, one thought echoed in his mind: there's something terribly wrong with them. Meanwhile, Angoulême's subordinates worked to control the fleeing individuals. The ordinary people caught in the midst of the chaos cowered on the ground, heads lowered, trembling with fear. In Salle de Balbrise, Lumian sat at the bar counter, listening to Jenna's captivating singing. 2 hours ago, he had received news that Rat Christo was unharmed, but a group of his subordinates had perished.
Quite efficient.
Lumian inwardly commended the official beyonders in the market district. As the risque song came to an end, a woman who had been waiting on the sidelines took the stage and hurriedly approached a young band member. She sobbed and cried out twice. It seemed she was delivering news of someone's death. The band member stood frozen, shocked by the news, unable to react for a moment. After a few seconds, he flung aside the 6-string zither strapped to him and dashed off the stage. However, he only managed a few steps before he stumbled and fell heavily to the ground. He struggled to rise, but failed. In the next moment, tears streamed down his face. Jenna, adorned in a shimmering red dress, observed him for a few seconds before pressing her lips together. Eventually, she didn't offer consolation, allowing the band member and the grieving woman to weep. She quietly stepped down from the stage and crossed paths with Lumian, who had left the bar counter.
What happened?
Lumian inquired.
His father passed away in an accident a few hours ago. I know him. Learning to play a musical instrument hasn't been easy for him. His father works as a porter, and his mother is a dishwasher. Without their unwavering support, he would be limited to manual labor.
Jenna let out a soft sigh and replied, "An accident a few hours ago." A porter Lumian roughly pieced together the cause. He gazed silently at the stage. Chapter 197, Helper. After the band member and his mother got time off from René, Salle de Balbrise's manager, the drum beats reverberated through the air, signaling the start of a new round of dancing. Lumian turned his gaze to Jenna, who stood by his side, and spoke in a casual tone.
I thought you would offer him some comfort. After all, you know him well and often collaborate with their band.
Jenna, dressed in a stunning red sequin dress that revealed a generous amount of her chest, pressed her lips together and responded calmly.
In that moment just now, what he needed wasn't comforting words, but a release. Offering condolences would only worsen his pain.
Lumian scrutinized Jenna for a few moments.
You seem to understand it quite well. Why do I have a feeling that you've experienced something similar yourself?
Jenna lowered her gaze to her toes and smiled softly.
A few years ago, I went through the same thing when my father passed away. One day, before dawn, my mother took me to the rooftop of our apartment and stayed with me until the sunrise. I witnessed the gradual brightening of the sky, from pitch black to a deep blue. It grew lighter and lighter, and I saw the clouds adorned with shades of bright gold and other colors. In that moment, she told me that darkness would eventually pass, and the sun would rise. Light would always find its way to illuminate the land. When he returns to the band, I'll find an opportunity to share something similar with him.
Lumian listened in silence, letting out a sigh.
You have a wonderful mother.
Yes.
Jenna accepted the compliment with pride. Lumian chuckled and remarked,
You managed to say so much without resorting to curses. That's unlike you.
Moreover, she appeared rather refined.
Damn it! Do you think I'm the type of person who curses incessantly?
Jenna cursed indignantly and made her way to the break room to prepare for the next song. Lumian settled back at the bar counter, his mind preoccupied with another matter. He had therapy scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, and there was a possibility of Louis Lund showing up on Sunday. What if he missed it? Lumian's initial impulse was to write a letter to Madame Magician and request her to check with his psychiatrist, Madame Susie, about the possibility of rescheduling the treatment by a day. However, he couldn't shake off the feeling of his condition being unstable for the past 2 days. If he didn't act promptly, he might face severe consequences when tracking down Louis Lund. Even though Madame Poilus wasn't exactly Madame Knight, Lumian couldn't confront her directly. His primary objective was to locate the survivor from Cordu and engage in a friendly conversation with her. Lumian didn't hold much animosity towards Madame Poilus. While she believed in an evil god and had involvement in Cordu, it appeared that she wasn't responsible for the disaster. She had departed before the ritual took place under some compulsion. Lumian didn't concern himself with others' beliefs, nor did he intend to. Hence, if he allowed himself to become unstable and reacted impulsively, escalating the conflict with Madame Poilus and making her his enemy, matters would become exceedingly troublesome, and he might even lose his life. As for the dispute with the Poison Spur mob, a problem with Madame Moon didn't equate to matters involving Madame Knight. After careful consideration, Lumian devised a plan to find someone who could track Louis Lund on his behalf and follow him to his residence in Trier. There's no need to consider individuals without beyonder powers. They simply wouldn't be able to keep up with him. There are two viable options. The first is Anthony Reed, an information broker suspected of being a beyonder from the psychiatrist pathway. He possesses excellent tracking abilities and has already accepted my commission, receiving a deposit. Since the task involves locating Louis Lund, it naturally falls within the scope of the mission. If Anthony proves difficult, I'm prepared to offer more money. The second option is Franca. She, along with Aurore, belongs to the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society. Franca knows my true identity and displays a certain level of concern for me. She is trustworthy to some extent, not to mention that she still owes me a favor. Franca possesses enough power to tail Louis Lund and even intercept him if necessary. As these thoughts raced through Lumian's mind, he rose from his seat, making his way to the bedroom on the second floor and leaving Salle de Bal Brise through the window. Auberge du Coq Doré, room 305. Lumian knocked on the wooden door.
Please come in.
Anthony Reed responded in a West Mid-Seashire Coast accent. The door slowly swung open. The information broker stood before Lumian once more. His plump face, once slick with oiliness, appeared freshly scrubbed, enhancing his air of honesty. Wearing a grayish-blue worker's uniform, he seemed to have spent the entire day in the southern part of the market district and Quartier du Jardin Botanique.
I've read your note.
Anthony Reed said, running a hand through his receding, light yellow hairline.
I've been keeping an eye on Avenue du Marché.
Lumian felt a slight unease, but he surveyed the room and spoke directly.
I have other matters to attend to between 2:30 p.m. and 5 o'clock tomorrow. If you happen to spot the target during that time, don't inform me. Simply follow him and ascertain his place of residence.
Anthony Reed locked his dark brown eyes onto Lumian's for a few seconds.
Very well.
He made no mention of an additional fee, and Lumian was content not to broach the subject either. 3 Rue des Blouses Blanches housed a relatively new apartment building. Its beige facade boasted a charming curvature, featuring numerous irregular walls adorned with a variety of statues. Angels, animals, celebrities, and legendary objects found their place amidst the architecture. The building boasted an abundance of large windows, wall pillars, and scroll art, creating an atmosphere of grandeur. Lumian stood before room 601 and pressed the doorbell. With a jingling sound, Franca swung open the dark red door. Her flaxen hair cascaded naturally and voluminously, while she wore a loose, white silk nightgown that gracefully reached her knees. The wide-open collar revealed a fair expanse of skin. Observing that the other party showed no signs of wariness and wasn't even wearing a bra, Lumian made a conscious effort to keep his gaze focused. Before opening the door, Franca seemed to already know the identity of the visitor. She greeted him with a smile.
Coming to seek knowledge in mysticism? After all our discussions, you've finally arrived.
No, it's something else.
Lumian responded, gesturing towards the room, indicating that they should speak inside. Franca turned and walked towards the sofa, Lumian following closely behind. As he entered, he instinctively scanned his surroundings. This apartment consisted of 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a living room, and a kitchen. The furnishings in the living room, such as the sofa, coffee table, dining table, chairs, and cupboards, were predominantly beige, iron black, silver white, or light gray. The colors were muted and lacked vibrancy. The overall aesthetic was one of simplicity and cleanliness, but it also exuded a touch of coldness. It stood in stark contrast to the living room styles found in most households. Lumian took a seat on the edge of the divan while Franca curled her legs and reclined on the adjacent armchair, revealing her alluring curves.
What brings you here?
Franca inquired. Lumian pointed towards her.
Aren't you considering changing your clothes?
Franca glanced down at her nightgown and came to a realization.
Perhaps it's because you know my original gender. When I'm around you, I always have this illusion that I'm still a man and forget to pay attention to such details.
A smile played on her lips. Rather than changing her attire, she shifted her sitting posture, accentuating her allure even further. After a few moments, she even left her recliner and settled beside Lumian. Sensing Lumian's perplexed gaze, she chuckled and remarked,
Since you won't peek, why should I bother changing?
She made a playful gesture, unreservedly teasing him.
Madame, you have a wicked sense of humor.
Lumian sighed.
Life is already tough. I need to seek some amusement for myself. But I'm considered fine. There's a group of individuals in the Research Society who harbor little hope for the future and have made it their life goal to pursue enjoyment. They've formed a group called April Fool's Day. Your sister must have mentioned it, right?
She did.
Lumian confirmed, recalling reading about it in Aurore's grimoires. Franca refrained from elaborating and fixed her gaze upon Lumian, her eyes resembling calm lakes, awaiting an explanation for his visit. Lumian spoke directly, his words carrying a certain bluntness.
I require a favor.
Oh?
Franca responded cooperatively, her tone laced with curiosity. Lumian took a moment to contemplate before continuing.
Considering you've seen my wanted poster, you must possess some knowledge regarding it. I've received information that one of the individuals depicted, a man by the name of Louis Lund, will make an appearance on Avenue du Marché tomorrow. He maintains close ties with the masterminds behind the Poison Spur mob. My intention is to apprehend him and unveil the truth behind the catastrophe in Cordu. However, I'll be preoccupied with crucial matters tomorrow afternoon, so I can't personally await his arrival. I hope you could lend me your assistance. Should he show, tail him and ascertain his whereabouts. If you feel confident, aid me in capturing him. He once possessed Beyonder powers equivalent to a Sequence 8 and is likely a gardener, though I cannot say for certain at present. After acquiring the mirror, you did promise to compensate me. This would be it.
This concerns Muggle's death. I will most certainly help. Compensation is not an appropriate term in this context.
Tailing him doesn't count, but attacking him counts?
Lumian proposed. Discerning the underlying polite and detached nature of his request, Franca did not insist and simply nodded.
That works too.
Curiosity danced across her countenance as she posed another query.
What could be more pressing than apprehending this individual named Louis Lund? I expected you to be more concerned about uncovering the truth behind Cordu.
Lumian pondered briefly before speaking candidly.
The Cordu disaster has left me grappling with certain psychological issues. I am presently undergoing regular treatment. I fear that without timely follow-up, I will lose control of my emotions, thus jeopardizing my quest for the truth.
Franca nodded sympathetically, displaying her understanding. Taking the initiative, she offered a suggestion.
Would you like me to find a genuine psychiatrist, one with Beyonder powers, for you?
My psychiatrist already possesses them.
Lumian revealed, withholding nothing. Franca refrained from prying further, recalling that Muggle's brother participated in other mystical gatherings. Lumian mentioned the attributes of a villain and a gardener, as well as the existence of Anthony Reed. He provided a detailed description of Reed's appearance to ensure Franca wouldn't mistake him for a companion of Louis Lund, potentially leading to unnecessary conflict. With that, Lumian rose from his seat, signaling his intention to depart. Franca stood up, amused.
You've come all this way. Aren't you interested in delving into the mysteries of mysticism?
Louis Lund may make an appearance tonight as well.
Lumian remarked, eager to return to Saldabal Breeze as swiftly as possible. At that precise moment, both he and Franca directed their attention toward the door. Light footfalls resonated from the stairs before halting nearby. Franca glanced at the peephole from a distance, her expression suddenly morphing into one of peculiarity. In hushed tones, she addressed Lumian.
Jenna?
Chapter 198. Conciliation. Beneath the open window of room 601, Lumian scaled the wall with his bare hands, aided by the protrusions, statues, and pipes. His descent was swift and steady, story after story, until he made a final leap and landed gracefully on the edge of Rue des Blouses Blanches. He grumbled under his breath.
Why am I forced to climb down from the 6th floor? I haven't done anything.
Lumian slipped into the shadows and made his way towards Avenue du Marché, in room 601. Franca cast a fleeting glance at the swaying window, adjusting her silk nightgown before approaching the slowly opening door, wearing a smile. Dressed in a sequined red dress, Jenna stored away the spare key Franca had entrusted to her and entered the apartment.
Why are you here so early today?
Franca inquired, blocking Jenna's path to the window, her brow furrowed in confusion.
Something happened to the band's 6-stringed zither player. While it didn't affect my singing, it put everyone in a foul mood. The dance hall manager, Renee, asked me to end the performance early and switch tonight's theme to cheek-to-cheek dancing.
The cheek-to-cheek dance in the Market District differed from the usual version. It involved intimate embraces and provocative movements between men and women on the dance floor. It was an exhilarating experience, but dance halls needed enough female dancers to organize it.
What happened exactly?
Attempting to find a topic of conversation, Franca asked. She discreetly calculated the time it would take for Lumian to descend to the 1st floor, all the while grumbling internally.
Why is Muggle's brother a hunter instead of an assassin? Assassins can effortlessly leap from the 6th floor and land as light as a feather.
Jenna recounted the band member's unfortunate incident and concluded,
Damn it, why do unlucky people always attract more misfortune? Yes, even though the performance ended earlier than usual, it's still late. Going home would be quite troublesome. I'll sleep at your place.
Given that Jenna lived far away from Avenue du Marché, she often sought refuge at Franca's whenever she performed late into the night at the dance hall. She even had a spare key, warehouse porter. Recalling the information provided by her subordinate, Franca surmised that it must be related to the matter involving Rat Christo. As she let out a sigh, contemplating how the innocent had lost their kin, Franca inwardly expressed her sorrow.
Brother 007 is incredibly efficient. I only informed him about the mirror people late last night, and the official Beyonders have already dealt with the anomaly before this evening.
Brother 007 was the code name of a man from the Curly-Haired Baboons Research Society, a member of an official organization in Trier. His rank seemed quite high, and Franca had secret connections with many fellow researchers in Trier, often organizing private gatherings with them. However, Franca knew that the matters involving the mirror people wouldn't end there. The special mirror world still existed, the mystery artifact that Gardner Martin smuggled into Trier remained, and the classic silver mirror in her possession persisted. If these elements weren't eliminated entirely, it would only solve the problem temporarily. Franca couldn't predict when similar anomalies would arise in the future. Franca approached the classic-styled silver mirror, which allowed entry into the special mirror world, with caution and seriousness. She believed it held a secret related to the demoness pathway.
Why are you so quiet?
Jenna asked, extending her right hand and waving it in front of Franca. Franca snapped back to reality and let out a sigh.
I feel a bit sad upon hearing about their misfortune.
It was precisely because she didn't want to face the pain of countless innocents that she followed Lumian's suggestion and handed over the matter to the officials. Jenna bypassed Franca and made her way to the guest room, intending to change into more comfortable attire. As she glanced around, she noticed that the living room window was open, letting in a refreshing breeze.
It was a bit stuffy.
Franca quickly explained. Jenna regarded her with suspicion.
Why did you feel the need to explain?
Ahem. Franca nearly choked on her own saliva. Thankfully, Jenna didn't dwell on it too much. She entered the guest room and headed towards the washroom, carrying her nightgown and pajamas. Once Lumian returned to Avenue du Marché, he began his rounds, starting with Unit 126, where Black Scorpion Roger resided. He approached the four mobsters disguised as beggars stationed at different entrances, far from their intended target. Lumian made a promise to each of them, guaranteeing 100 Verrel d'Or by Monday. That night he struggled to find rest in Salle de Bal Brise. Occasionally he would wake up, straining his ears for any signs of movement outside the window, hoping to catch the sound of hurried footsteps. At dawn, while enjoying breakfast at the cafe and skimming through a newspaper, Louis ascended from the first floor and whispered in Lumian's ear,
Boss, Superintendent Everett requests your presence at the Valiant Cafe, opposite the police headquarters, for a cup of coffee precisely at 10 a.m.
Superintendent Everett wants to meet me, the newly appointed leader of the Savoy mob? Lumian remained relatively composed with the mystery prying glasses in his possession. He asked Louis,
Who else will be there?
Many.
Louis responded in a hushed tone.
They say all the mob leaders from the market district will gather. The official voting begins today.
The voting would extend over 3 days. Is that so? So they won't let us disrupt the National Convention election, it seems. I wonder if the Poison Spur mob will attend. Lumian nodded and left Salle de Bal Brise at 9:15 a.m., making his way back to Auberge du Coq Doré. In room 207, he put on the mystery prying glasses, experiencing the disorienting sensation of descending from great heights and burrowing into the ground. Suppressing the urge to retch, Lumian retrieved a mirror and all his cosmetics, busying himself with preparations. He opted for subtle alterations, focusing on thickening his eyebrows, accentuating his cheekbones, and enhancing shadowy areas. The adjustments created an impression that it was indeed CL, and not someone else. As soon as he finished his makeup, Lumian hastily set the mirror aside, unwilling to catch a glimpse of his reflection. Shortly before 10 a.m., he arrived at the Valiant Cafe and was promptly escorted to a private room by a waiter. Upon entering, he immediately recognized several familiar faces. Baron Brenier, adorned in formal attire with a top hat and pipe, Franca, sporting trousers, red boots and a blouse, the towering giant Simon, and the merchant-like figure of Blood Palm Black. Seated in an armchair at the head of the table, Travis Everett, donning a black uniform, rose with a smile upon seeing Lumian enter.
You must be CL, am I right?
Yes, Superintendent Everett.
Lumian responded respectfully. Franca, Baron Brenier, and the others, who had risen alongside Travis Everett, exchanged puzzled glances as they observed Lumian. Franca's gaze averted in enlightenment as she recognized the golden black hair. Baron Brenier, Giant Simon, and the rest gradually realized that it was CL. Adjusting his black-framed glasses, Superintendent Everett's blue eyes gleamed as he half-praised Lumian and patted the recliner beside him.
You've only been in the market district for less than 3 weeks, but you've already taken over Salle de Bal Brise. And you're so young. You're really outstanding. Sigh. The market district hasn't been peaceful for the past month.
He half-praised Lumian and patted a recliner beside him.
Come, have a seat here. Let me introduce you to the others.
When Lumian stood by Everett's side, the superintendent gestured toward a middle-aged man seated across the coffee table and spoke.
Roger, you're acquainted with him, aren't you?
Black Scorpion Roger? Lumian directed his gaze at the middle-aged man. Roger, dressed in formal attire with neatly combed black hair, had a slightly chubby face, and his deep blue eyes resembled the vast sea.
We're meeting for the first time.
Lumian replied with a smile. He noticed a chilling gaze emanating from Black Scorpion. Everett proceeded to introduce the individuals sitting beside Roger.
Harmon, Castina.
Upon entering the private room, Lumian had noticed only Harmon among the few members of the Savoy mob. The bald man's shining head was so eye-drawing that Lumian almost looked away, fearing that it might reflect his disguised appearance. Upon closer inspection, Lumian recognized Harmon's unique features, a prominent brow, a high-nosed bridge, and deep-set lips. He possessed the allure of a ruggedly handsome individual. Even in a seated position, his imposing height was evident, complementing his dark breeches shirt splendidly. Castina, petite and likely under 1.55 meters tall, appeared to be around 30 years old. She possessed curly auburn hair, brown eyes, a curvaceous figure that turned heads, and full lips.
You should be familiar with CL from the Savoy mob, right?
Everett introduced CL to Roger and the others. Roger flashed a cold smile.
Indeed, Superintendent. The impression he made on me will never fade.
Baldy? Harmon's eyes brimmed with hatred and cruelty. Everett sighed and said,
We all reside in the market district. Only by coexisting peacefully can we secure a better future and greater wealth. If any conflicts arise, come to me. I'll mediate and arbitrate. CL, take this cup of coffee to Roger and hand over Sal de Balbrise's profits for the next 6 months. The issue between Margot and 8 ends here. If anyone troubles you regarding these matters again, feel free to inform me directly.
Lumian observed Roger, Harmon, and Castina with a sense of amusement, realizing that their eyes held no mercy, only restrained coldness and malevolence. Baron Brenier and the others remained silent, watching the scene unfold as though it were a spectacle. Franca shook her head at Lumian, signaling him not to act recklessly. Lumian bent down and picked up the cup of coffee from the table. Suddenly, he raised his hands and flung the contents of the cup at Black Scorpion Roger. Reacting swiftly, Roger evaded the liquid, colliding with the coffee table. Harmon and Castina sprang to their feet. Simultaneously, Lumian pointed at Black Scorpion Roger and cursed,
FCKU. Are you disregarding the superintendent's words? Playing dumb, are we? If you don't desire peace, speak up. I, CL, shall await you at Salle de Balbrise. The look in your eyes tells me vengeance is on your mind.
How brazen.
Franca had not anticipated Lumian's audacity. Chapter 199, Unruly. Travis Everett concealed his emotions behind the black-framed glasses, rendering them inscrutable. Nevertheless, he made no attempt to halt Lumian's actions. It was as though he had transformed into a mere observer. Baron Brenier, Bloodpalm Black, and the rest were taken aback by Lumian's reaction. They couldn't fathom his audacity to splash coffee at Black Scorpion Roger in front of the superintendent and sabotage the mediation. In particular, Baron Brenier felt as though he was encountering his former subordinate, now colleague, for the very first time.
Is he far more unruly and reckless than I had anticipated? Does he refuse to accept any grievances and is unwilling to pay any price?
Although he attempted to shift the blame onto Black Scorpion Roger and the others, it was evident to anyone with a modicum of sense and perception that Lumian was the instigator of the conflict, driven by a strong will of his own. Clearly, he had no intention of reconciliation. He sought only an excuse to undermine Superintendent Everett's proposal.
Is this not a blatant slap in Superintendent Everett's face? The superintendent wielded considerable influence in the market district. A slight embellishment in reporting to higher authorities, or rather stating the unvarnished truth, would draw the attention of official beyonders and dismantle all our enterprises, including the leaders of the Savoy mob.
Incensed, Baldy Harmon denied Lumian the opportunity to shatter the coffee cup on his boss. He lunged forward, stooped down, grasped the coffee table's edge, hoisted it, and flung it at the detestable individual. Cups clattered to the ground, splintering into shards. Lumian deftly evaded the projectiles, swiftly drawing his black revolver from beneath his arm. He trained it on Harmon amid the cacophonous crash of objects and the ensuing chaos.
You country hog, do you spurn Superintendent Everett's gracious offer of mediation? Very well then, our poison spur mob shall entertain you until one of us is vanquished from this game. Go ahead, fire away. Your audacity and lack of respect towards Superintendent Everett know no bounds. If you possess such ability, then pull the trigger.
Were it not for the impending election and the stringent surveillance imposed by officials, the Poison Spur mob would have long seized an opportunity to assassinate CL. In that instant, Black Scorpion Roger rose once more. Black flames materialized within his clenched fists, only to dissipate swiftly. He was reluctant to unveil his beyonder powers in the presence of Superintendent Everett. Short-legged Candlestick, Castina also fixed her gaze on Lumian, poised to strike if he refused to relent. Upon hearing Baldy Harmon's retort and provocation, Lumian chuckled. Bang! Lumian squeezed the trigger, unleashing a yellow bullet, hurtling directly towards Baldy Harmon's skull. The audacity of CL's action caught Harmon off guard. He never expected him to open fire in the presence of Superintendent Everett, defying all rules and driven solely by the desire to end his life. His reflexes barely saved him. Harmon crouched down just in time, his eyes widening in alarm. The bullet grazed his glistening scalp and careened off, ricocheting into the adjacent washroom with a metallic clang. In an instant, all the mob leaders sprang to their feet. Black Scorpion Roger and short-legged candlestick Castina fixated on Lumian, preparing to retaliate. Undeterred, Lumian remained resolute. He lowered his gun and aimed it once more at Baldy Harmon, his gaze devoid of any emotion.
Enough!
At that very moment, Superintendent Everett, who had been calmly seated, spoke up. The indescribable authority emanating from him, combined with his esteemed position, compelled Lumian to instinctively halt his finger from pulling the trigger. Seizing the opportunity, Baldy Harmon shifted his position and rose to his feet. Though the others maintained their combative stance, the palpable tension that had lingered dissipated. Lamenting his mischance, Lumian reluctantly holstered his revolver and turned to face Everett.
Superintendent, I am willing to comply with your request, but they don't seem inclined to do so.
Everett's eyes flickered behind his black-framed spectacles. Standing up, he surveyed the room.
We will address your conflict after the election. For the next 3 days, I expect all of you to conduct yourselves properly. Fail to do so, and you shall make an enemy out of me. Trust me, that's a predicament you won't be able to handle.
Although Everett's voice carried depth, his tone remained calm, devoid of anger or arrogance. Instead, a hint of sincerity permeated his words. Yet those who had resided in the Market District for more than 2 years recalled a term, the Valiant Mob. 2 years prior, the Valiant Mob held a similar status to the Savoy Mob in the Market District. However, due to their repeated defiance and disrespect towards Superintendent Everett, they were ruthlessly eradicated in a joint operation conducted by the authorities. The subsequent rise of the Poison Spur Mob was partly due to the power vacuum left behind in the district's underworld. Now, only the Valiant Café stood as a testament to the existence of such a mob. The leaders of the Savoy Mob, the Poison Spur Mob, and the other 2 medium-sized gangs fell into silence for a few seconds before responding to Superintendent Everett's words. They expressed their commitment to restrain their subordinates and ensure that the election proceeded without disruption. Superintendent Everett's gaze swept across their faces. Without uttering another word, he strode towards the exit of the private room. As he disappeared beyond the door, Black Scorpion Roger, Baldy Harmon, and short-legged Candlestick, Castina cast Lumian cold glances before departing from the cafe. The remaining gang leaders didn't linger, leaving only the Savoy Mob in the confines of the private room. Baron Brenier took a leisurely puff from his pipe and addressed Lumian.
You acted too impulsively back there.
Lumian offered a faint smile in response and replied,
I have been awaiting an opportunity like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't seize it to incite the conflict.
Observing the puzzled expressions on the faces of Giant Simon, Blood Palm Black, and the others, Lumian calmly elaborated.
We have already made 2 attempts, and the Poison Spur Mob chose to endure. Baron, as you have rightly pointed out, they harbor a significant problem, and they await their chance. I believe that opportunity will present itself soon. If we fail to incapacitate the Poison Spur Mob before then, we shall face their unhinged retaliation. And when that moment arrives, none of you will be able to escape. Just a moment ago, there were only 3 members of the Poison Spur Mob present, while we numbered 5. Red Boots, your strength is comparable to that of Black Scorpion. With my assistance, you can surely overpower him. Baron Simon Black, is it conceivable that you cannot handle Baldy and short-legged Candlestick? One of you might even be able to impede Superintendent Everett. As long as the Poison Spur Mob dares to strike back, we shall eliminate them all right here.
Rat Christo had received instructions from Superintendent Everett the previous night that he was not to be invited today. Baron Brenier, Blood Palm Black, and their comrades found CL's words reasonable, yet a deep-seated fear for this individual arose within their hearts. He wasn't bluffing. He genuinely desired to eliminate Baldy Harmon and the others. He was too crazy and extreme. He possessed the audacity to commit any act without hesitation.
But this is tantamount to slapping Superintendent Everett in the face. The repercussions will be exceedingly troublesome.
Blood Palm Black shook his head. Franca shared the same concern. She wished to caution Lumian that such a course of action would render him unwelcome in the market district. He might even end up with another wanted poster. However, recognizing that the other leaders were present and unable to reveal her true friendship with Lumian, Franca sealed her lips. A quizzical smile played on Lumian's lips as he inquired,
"Wasn't Superintendent Everett killed by the poison spur mob?"
Lunatic. This notion raced through everyone's minds. Baron Brenier, gently stroking his mahogany-colored pipe, chimed in.
It's nearly impossible to conceal that from official beyonders. It's merely an excuse.
In that case, let it go. Blame everything on a lunatic like me. At worst, I'll depart from the market district. I trust the boss will arrange another task for me once this storm blows over.
Lumian calmly remarked, a serene smile gracing his face. This was indeed a fragment of his genuine thoughts. Mr. K's mission revolved around earning Gardner Martin's trust, not running Salle de Balbrise or establishing a foothold in the market district. If his provocation had genuinely enraged Black Scorpion Roger and his accomplices, Lumian believed that Franca would surely come to his aid. With one of the Savoie mob's leaders on his side, the others wouldn't hesitate to act. When the time came, united in strength, they stood a high chance of eliminating the remaining 3 leaders of the Poison Spur mob. Once he unraveled the Poison Spur mob scheme, Gardner Martin would undoubtedly appreciate Lumian's daring and unorthodox approach in eradicating hidden threats. Even if he lost Salle de Balbrise and was compelled to escape once more, he would merely find sanctuary elsewhere in Trier and continue serving Gardner Martin until he gained his complete approval. Furthermore, it was advantageous for Lumian. If the Poison Spur mob finalized their preparations, he would be their primary target for revenge. Failing to address the issue beforehand would only heighten the danger he faced. In the future, even if Madame Moon birthed another group, Lumian wouldn't fret. Today, Louis Lund would likely be present in the market district. By temporarily suppressing the deaths of Black Scorpion, Roger, and his cronies, creating a facade of tranquility, Lumian could patiently await his target at 126 Avenue du Marché. These individuals weren't parliamentary candidates whose demise would incite an uproar. After a few moments of silence, Baron Brenier approached the door and issued a reminder.
Superintendent Everett has probably marked you. There will be considerable trouble after the election.
Lumian responded with a smile.
Perhaps he will mysteriously vanish one day.
Having said that, Lumian calmly endured the mildly apprehensive gazes of Giant Simon and his comrades.
You see, having laid the groundwork, anything I utter now will convince them all.
At 3:15 p.m., Lumian arrived at Quartier du Jardin Botanique in a public carriage. Once again, he beheld Maison Café, housed in a beige 4-story building adorned with lush green plants entwined on its outer walls. Passing through a sheltered walkway upheld by pillars, he entered the interior, enveloped by dark green walls and expansive windows. Settling into the familiar Booth D, he removed his wide-brimmed round hat.
A cup of Intis coffee.
He instructed the waitress and patiently waited. Chapter 200, Spectator. The titular coffee was rich and aromatic, a perfect match for the creamy cupcake. Though Lumian's focus was elsewhere, he still appreciated their beauty. The moment the clock struck 3:30 p.m., a familiar soft female voice reached him from the booth behind.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lumian Lee.
Good afternoon, Madame Susie.
Lumian responded, concealing his surprise. While Lumian didn't intentionally observe the customers entering Maison Café, his hunter instincts allowed him to maintain awareness of his surroundings. When he had arrived at the cafe at 3:18 p.m., Cabin D had been deserted. No one entered from 3:15 to 3:30 p.m. And yet here was Madame Susie appearing silently behind him in the very spot behind booth D. How mystical and bizarre was this?
Susie's voice gently inquired once more. How did you feel after your last treatment?
Lumian didn't hold back and responded simply,
I felt much better than before. At least I could release my emotions.
That's a good thing. Suppressing your feelings and bottling up your emotions will only exacerbate your mental problems and lead you down a self-destructive path until your innate will to live is completely overwhelmed.
Susie commented in a calm and soothing tone, confirming Lumian's transformation. A hint of a smile laced her words.
Let's have a conversation first. We'll discuss all the things you've encountered in the past 2 weeks. Feel free to choose what you believe you can and are willing to share.
Lumian knew he needed to calm himself and undergo further psychiatric treatment as a foundation for unlocking more memories later. Hence, he offered no resistance. He chuckled wryly and said,
There's nothing I can't tell you. I've even shared that dream with you. Everything else can only be classified as minor secrets.
He paused for a moment and began with Charlie.
There's an unlucky and dim-witted fellow at the motel I'm staying at.
Lumian casually recounted the events of the past 2 weeks. Gradually, his mind relaxed, as if he had returned to a time before Cordu's destruction. Aurore, who rarely ventured outside, would hear about everything that transpired in Cordu from him. He delighted in sharing it with his sister, even boasting about the successful pranks he had orchestrated. As time trickled away, Lumian's rigid posture softened as he sank into the plush sofa. He refrained from delving into further details. Time was limited, and he couldn't afford to waste it. He didn't touch upon the curly-haired baboon's research society, Franca's true gender, or his suspicions regarding her motives for joining the Savoy mob. He merely mentioned his encounter with a pen pal of Aurore's, a Sequence 7 Witch of the Demoness pathway, who happened to be in the same mob. Likewise, he provided only a brief mention of performing a ritual and receiving an additional boon, without going into the specifics. Susie listened intently throughout their conversation. Every so often, she would prompt him with a gentle,
And then?
Allowing Lumian to seamlessly continue. After recounting his experiences from the past 2 weeks, Lumian spoke in a self-deprecating tone.
I can't help but wonder if it's my own fault for stumbling upon so many Beyonder events in such a short span of time. Sometimes I question why every human and dog in Trier seems to possess Beyonder powers.
For once, Susie didn't respond immediately. After a few moments, she smiled and replied,
I can perceive that your mental state has indeed improved compared to before.
How can you tell?
Lumian didn't mention the details of his tearful carriage ride upon seeing Aurore's obituary. He didn't believe that describing all of that was an accurate reflection of his mental state.
Susie spoke in a gentle tone. I can sense that you're reconstructing your social connections and beginning to form friendships.
Friends?
Lumian asked, slightly amused.
Charlie, Jenna, Franca, can they truly be called friends?
They are mere acquaintances.
Susie responded with a smile. Friendship comes in various forms. Not all require deep connections. You simply need to ask yourself, when they face challenges that lie within your capabilities to solve, would you be willing to offer assistance? That will reveal if they can be considered your friends.
It depends on the specific circumstances and the price I must pay. I'm not the type to go out of my way to help just anyone.
Lumian muttered. Susie didn't press further and explained.
For someone prone to self-destruction, a sign of their emergence from the quagmire is their willingness to forge new social bonds. Emperor Roselle, assuming he truly said it, once remarked that humans are the sum of their social relationships. When you no longer resist forming new connections, it signifies that you're no longer opposed to your own future. Of course, this is just one aspect. It's not everything.
Lumian fell silent for a moment before speaking again.
Madam Susie, there's something I'd like to ask you. I mentioned a series of coincidences that have befallen me. Are they truly, as Madam Magician suggested? Could they be partially influenced by mid-sequence beyonders of the spectator pathway?
In contrast to the previous session, Susie appeared more at ease. She chuckled and remarked,
Are you attempting to divert the topic? Are you still resistant to such matters? Actually, one can discern it from certain details. You took the initiative to request the Red Boots lady to enlighten you on mystical matters whenever she was available, but you never followed through. The sole visit you made was on the pretext of her repaying a favor. It suggests that you remain unwilling to establish a closer bond with her. That's natural. How can a patient recover after just one treatment? You need not burden yourself.
Susie tirelessly voiced her observations, gently pinpointing some of Lumian's current psychological issues.
If it were the last time, I wouldn't have been so forthright. It would have only bred resistance, causing you to close yourself off further. However, now you exhibit certain inclinations toward forging new social connections. This will allow you to gain clearer insights into your true self and facilitate your progress.
Having his underlying thoughts laid bare by Susie, Lumian's initial reaction was wariness, vigilance, and denial. Yet, Susie's composed demeanor, non-aggressive analysis, and accurate understanding of the situation gradually eased his tension, enabling him to confront his deep-seated problems. His body and mind gradually settled. Susie refrained from prying further and addressed Lumian's inquiry.
Madam Magician's explanation is not entirely incorrect, but it lacks specificity. For a mid-sequence beyonder of the spectator pathway to engineer a coincidence, they must employ face-to-face psychological cues or hypnosis. In other words, they need to be present around you, Baron Brignier, and his associates. The reason you didn't notice it, and Baron Brignier remained oblivious, is that mid-sequence beyonders of the spectator pathway possess an additional beyonder power, psychological invisibility.
Psychological invisibility? How does it differ from regular invisibility?
Lumian inquired, perplexed.
Psychological invisibility is not true invisibility. It merely prevents you from perceiving me, even when I am standing right before you and numerous others have already witnessed my presence.
Sounds very magical.
Lumian sighed with a sense of wonder. For some inexplicable reason, he felt as though psychiatrists were all around him, yet he remained oblivious to their presence.
This won't change even if you employ spirit vision. Your intuition for danger will not react until I am prepared to strike.
Susie continued.
By comparison, a shadow ascetic's concealment within shadows occasionally evokes the sensation of being watched by the darkness.
Which pathway does shadow ascetic belong to?
Lumian pressed.
Secret suppliant.
Susie replied simply, Secrets, suppliant pathway. Above listener and below shepherd, there's a sequence known as shadow ascetic. This belongs to Mr. K's pathway. Occasionally, I sense someone observing me in the surrounding darkness because of him or his subordinates. Combining this with Aurore's grimoires and Madam Magician's clues, Lumian felt a wave of enlightenment. For the Secret's suppliant pathway, Aurore had only noted down Sequence 9 Secret Suppliant and Sequence 8 Listener.
Madam Magician appears to write a substantial amount, but it's actually just an outline without much detail. It's not as comprehensive as Madam Susie's explanation.
Lumian mumbled curiously and asked,
Aren't you concerned that revealing your pathway's beyonder powers to me might harm you?
Susie brushed off the question and continued.
If you're a high sequence beyonder of the spectator pathway, there's no need for such elaborate measures. Even if they're far away from you, they can subtly influence you, causing you to unknowingly follow their arrangements and create various coincidences. Though I, too, am a spectator, I must still caution you. Beware of the spectator.
High sequence beyonder Lumian was alarmed.
So you arranged for the paperboy to deliver an outdated newspaper to me?
Madam Susie is a high sequence beyonder, a true demigod?
It wasn't me?
Susie said, feeling a tad embarrassed.
It was my companion.
Companion?
Lumian recalled Madam Magician's initial suggestion and guessed.
The other psychiatrist? He was here last time too?
Yes.
Susie candidly admitted.
Your condition is more serious, and I wasn't too confident, so I invited her along to assist me. Yes, as a precautionary measure. In fact, she's here today as well. She's sitting across from you.
Across from me? Lumian glanced in surprise at the empty seat across the coffee table. Not only was there no one present, but there wasn't even an indentation from someone sitting there. In the next instant, he heard a gentle female voice with a hint of a smile and a slightly brisk tone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for listening. Creating these audiobooks takes a lot of time and effort, so if you enjoyed this journey, please consider subscribing to support the channel. Only a small percentage of our listeners are subscribed, and your support makes a huge difference. If you want to hear more light novels, let me know in the comments below. See you in the next chapter.